Must be weird not having anybody come on you.
Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome in once again. Today I'd like to share with you my personal favorite carry pistol. And it's probably going to be a surprise for a lot of people why I've chosen that. So what I want to do is I want to start off by telling you what that main reason is. First, double check. This is clear and safe. This is the Shadow Systems MR920. Now, I also have a CR920, which I love almost as much. And I don't say that this is my favorite carry pistol just because it's accurate, just because it's fast, just because it's got great ergonomics, and just because it's reliable. It is all of those things, and they are major factors. But there's one thing that not many people have actually touched upon, and I want to kind of put that out there first so that you're hooked and you watch the rest of the video. Shadow Systems is, as far as I know, the one and only manufacturer that gives you a very specific guarantee. Since they designed these guns to be self-defense items, they figure, well, we're charging a lot of money for these things, and a lot of people will look at more expensive guns and go, wow, I would love to own that. However, should I ever need to use it in defense of my life or someone else's life, then I've lost that investment forever because it'll be confiscated. It'll be in a police lockup for the rest of my natural born life. And there is a slight possibility you might get it back, but it's highly unlikely. So a lot of people go, yeah, I'm not spending that kind of money no matter how good the gun is because that money's going to be gone if I ever have to use it. Shadow Systems says, well, we're going to give you the only guarantee in the industry that says if you have used this in a justifiable self-defense scenario, we'll replace the gun. So yeah, you spent $1,000 on this gun, but you're not losing $1,000. You have gone through the trial process, everything's hunky-dory, and the only thing that's left for you to do is deal with that mental scar for the rest of your life. You don't have to deal with the financial issue that may go along with that because Shadow Systems is going to make sure that you're whole on that end and replace your favorite carry gun. Now, to me, that's kind of a big deal because of the, for the reasons that I told you. It is a big investment. And for me personally, generally I'll spend between $1,000 and $3,000 for a carry gun. And while I try not to think of it as, well, that's an investment lost if I ever have to use it, I look at it as it was an investment in my life because I know when I pull that out, it's going to function and it's going to put bullets where I want the bullets to go and nowhere else because it's going to be accurate, it's going to be reliable, and it's going to be all the things that you should be getting when you pay this level of money. Now, the other thing a lot of people find contentious about these guns and many other Glock-alikes, Glock clones, is, well, if I'm going to buy a gun that's so similar to a Glock, why wouldn't I just buy a Glock? Or why wouldn't I just buy a Glock and then modify it with all of the things that this pistol has? And you can certainly do all of those things, and nobody's saying that you shouldn't. What I'm going to tell you is you're foolish if you do. When I got my MR920, I had been through dozens of various Glocks throughout my adult life, but at the time of purchasing this, I had two G19s and a G19X. And I got rid of all of them because this is just that good. So let's get to the tabletop review, the portion I like to call Desk Pop, because I'm not going out to the range and I'm not doing a full-scale review. I'm just doing a tabletop review. That was my clever little name for this series. Let's take a good close-up look at this and see what it is that makes the Shadow Systems MR920 such a special handgun. Okay, new setup here on the close-up, so we'll redo this to make sure that everybody understands it is clear and it is safe. How is the MR920 just not like a Glock or like other Glock clones? There are a few things that truly set it apart and make it special. Number one, the grip angle. The grip angle is not a Glock grip angle. It's a lot more like a 1911, so it's a bit more of a neutral angle that more people are going to find comfortable. Now, I personally don't mind a Glock grip, a Glock grip angle, say that 3 times fast, but I can adapt, and I've never really had much of an issue with anybody's grip angle. I mean, I love CZs, I love 1911s, I love Glocks, so once, honestly, you've practiced with it enough, you should be able to adapt just fine. But that being said, you've got something that I think more people are going to be happier with. Now, here's the thing. It does come with interchangeable back straps like Glocks do nowadays and like almost every other polymer pistol does. However, it does not change the length of pull. It doesn't add size to it where the trigger reach is going to be different. And that's a huge difference. When this came out, I don't think anybody else had achieved that yet. And I really can't think of very many, or even any off the top of my head right now, that have done the same thing. Because whenever you change the backstrap, it tends to widen everything so it can change what your length of pull is. Now, if you do like the Glock grip angle, all you do is you slide this out and you use the large back strap that comes with this, and it's got the big Glock hump on it, and that will give you that more canted forward angle that you like in that grip from the Glock. One thing that you're going to notice throughout is that Shadow Systems' goal isn't to make a Gucci Glock with a whole bunch of extraneous cool shit on it. There is some extraneous stuff, but visually, all the slide cuts in the windows and all that, but there is a functionality, and we'll get to that in a moment. It has a cool Gucci look to it, but when you break down every little thing that they've done here, it's mainly to benefit carry and shooting, not just to be cool looking and not to make a match gun out of it, because it's not what their intention is. It really is an all-around fighting pistol. And I know that sounds kind of cliche and it's kind of cringy to speak like that. Oh, it's a combat pistol, it's a fighting pistol. But in all honesty, the things that they've done here are made to enhance the gun's performance as a carry gun and as a fighting gun. Yes, the barrel that they have in here, I've changed mine out. I have the Radiant Arms afterburner, the whole deal going on in there, so it's compensated. But this is the stock barrel right here, the bronze barrel, which I love. And I mean, I absolutely love the look of the bronze against the black. I think it's very, very handsome, especially on the threaded barrel where it's sticking out a bit. But I wanted to compensate this particular gun because I do love it so much that I wanted that extra little bit of performance added to it. And so this had to come out, unfortunately. But this is an extremely accurate barrel and very, very, very reliable. We'll get to that in a couple minutes, kind of getting ahead of myself here because I'm all excited because I'm talking about pretty much my favorite gun. So pardon me if I get just a little bit excited. Now, let's talk about the Gucci stuff. Yeah, if you look at it and go, well, there's a whole bunch of slide serrations and window cuts and stuff. Well, that's pretty Gucci. I mean, yeah, it can be. Yeah, I guess it is. But there's a reason that they're doing it. They're making a lighter slide, so it's faster reciprocation, and there's less mass slamming rearward that gives you more of that muzzle flip, and there's less mass dropping back forward and dipping your front sight down. So it is useful, and it looks cool all at the same time. Now, I'm not saying other companies don't do the same thing. Sure, they absolutely do. I'm just pointing out that there are a lot of ways that you can do slide cuts and they look really, really awesome. And then you're really thinking about it going, what are they doing it for? What's the benefit? Sometimes it is just looks, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have no problem with having cool stuff on guns that just look cool. You know, it could be even something as simple as a cool Cerakote theme. Do what you want to do, man. Make it look cool. But for me, I want to start performance-based. And that really is what this gun is all about. Now, talking about things that are functional, let's talk about the serrations and the grip. The serrations are really, really, really well done. Even having the larger sized optic on here, this is the 407C. I have a 507C on a different gun, so I always forget which one I have on which. Simple truth is, when I went and bought this at Shields, when I walked into the store and walked out with it, the only optics they had in stock in a full RMR size, besides the RMR, which I don't like to use, was a 407. They had no 507. So, yeah, I cheaped out and I got the 407. So sue me. Anyway, so even with the little bit of overhang that you have here on the optic, I can still get to these serrations and they work really, really well. The grip tang is another area where they have made something that is purposeful. Yes, you've got that nice grip tang. You could call it a beaver tail. It doesn't really come out very far. It doesn't sweep up, but it gives you the same performance. It allows you to get way up high on the gun and not worry about that slide coming over here and chewing up the meat of your hand. But they realize that this is one of the areas that can print a lot when you're carrying. So they've notched it on the corner so that big old corner isn't hanging out and pushing through and printing through your clothing. Every decision was made to prioritize carry and shooting. Here's another great example. The undercut. No more Glock knuckle. You don't get the horrible contour that ends up rubbing the hell out of your knuckle when you're shooting. They've achieved what I believe is the smoothest and cleanest contour of any undercut on any Glock or Glock style gun that I have ever seen. The seam is almost non-existent, and the way that they've contoured it in every direction makes it extremely comfortable. It's the best contoured frame in existence, in my opinion, for a Glock style pistol. Nobody has an undercut this good, period. Now, the grip texture is a really great balance between super grippy for shooting and not allowing the gun to really move much in your hand, but also not being a cheese grater on the more sensitive skin that's on your sides and your abdomen when you're carrying the gun. And the thumb ledges, they work really, really well. So I've got a nice index for my trigger finger, so I'm always propping up to the exact same spot. And while these are not massive ledges that stick way, way, way out, they're just enough. There's just enough of a lip there. There's just enough of a recess cut. And there's just enough of this really great texture that the way that I shoot, I do like shooting thumbs forward. This is easily accessible for me. I feel like I've got a good amount of recoil control with it. I would have to say, in stock form, out of all of my guns, stock versus stock, no porting, no comps, this is probably the pistol that I shoot the fastest and the most controlled, and I can get back to zero more easily than pretty much anything else. The only thing I have that really compares would be the Oracle Arms 2311, because they have enormous ledges off of the side. And I mean, you can rest half of your thumb on it. They're so big. But here's the difference. They didn't go so cartoonishly large that now you have a hard time with holster fitment. This is still going to drop into any Glock 19 holster that you already have. And the same thing goes for the CR920. That's going to fit into any 43 or 48 holster that you've got. All their sizes, as they match up to the Glock configurations, will fit into those holsters. No problem whatsoever. And that's a big deal. I mean, when you're out there buying new guns, one of the big concerns is I'm spending all this money on this gun. I'm spending money on what some people may prioritize as something they have to have right away, is their optic, maybe another light, and your holsters. I mean, we're in a day and age where your average holster is $100. Good holsters are $150, $160, so on and so forth. That I don't know that there is still a $30, $40 quality custom holster out there anymore. There used to be. I used to go to, Money River Tactical was one that I loved. They were around $45 for pretty much anything, and they were awesome. I still have a couple here somewhere. I think I even have one for this particular gun. And their prices went up because everybody's supply and demand, so the cost of materials went up. Everybody started charging more. And especially during and after COVID, everything really went up. And so you're making big investments. So if you've already got 2 or 3 Glock holsters, you don't want to buy a Glock clone that's not going to fit into the damn things. And there are a few out there that unfortunately do force you to buy all new holsters. Now, in 2024, we take optics-ready slides for granted. FN, I think, may have been the first mass production company to do it. I don't remember. But I know that my 509 Tactical was my personal first on a gun that I purchased that didn't require any optics plates or anything else. It was a direct mount, for universal fit for a multitude of different optics. That was an enormous deal. And then right around that time is when this came out. Now, they obviously started with the MR918. I didn't even know about Shadow Systems back then. And with the MR920 being my first, again, that was the tail end of 2019 going into 2020. I just happened to be going into a Scheels. If you're not familiar with Scheels, it's a huge sporting goods store with a really, really good gun department. And Scheels is huge in Texas. Shadow Systems is from Texas. I was living in the Dallas area. And of course, Shadow Systems had a great partnership with Scheels, being the local big retailer. And they stocked up a whole bunch of their guns all the time. So as I'm walking through the gun department looking to see what I want to buy, I saw this, and they have it kind of like sitting like this. And I'm like, well, hell, that is a cool ass looking gun. What the hell is that? I had never heard of Shadow Systems. So I put it in my hand, and instantly I went, I'm buying it, have to have it, hook me up, let's do this. And back in those days, like it's that old, back at that time, to get a universal optics-ready slide it wasn't a thing. It was a really, really, really big deal. Now, on Glock-style guns, it's even bigger, because what Shadow Systems had to do is they had to re-engineer the slide internals. You cannot go take your Glock 19 and cut it for an optic and go this low with the screws that they use. It can't be done. It is an absolute impossibility because of the channel back here for the extractor spring, the tension spring. What you've got here are screws that are almost as long as the height of the entire slide. It's insane. So you don't have the buses that you would have in a lot of adapter plates for different types of optics. What you've got are, instead of having these little teeny tiny micro screws, you've got screws that are almost 3 times longer, going all the way down. I mean, you're literally running to right about there. It's insane how far down the screws go. And on top of that, you've got this right here. I'm going to zoom in because I just realized it's not very easy to see. There's this little polymer wedge that they provide So if you're running an RMR, you've got a little wedge that goes behind the optic between the cut and the optic. And then there's other ones, and maybe it was for the Delta Point Pro or something, I don't remember, that go in front of it between the front cut and the front of the optic. So what you've got are insanely long screws giving you the stability, and then you've got this plate here, which takes a lot of the banging around that buses would on a typical optics plate. I've had this gun since, like I said, late 2019, early 2020, so, almost 5 years, and I have not had my screws come loose once. I've never had to retighten this optic, so I've got nearly 5 years and thousands of rounds through this thing, and that optic is rock solid. And it's funny because I actually want to change out the optic, only because I just want to change things up and make it fresh. I've had it set up this exact way for so many years, and I want to put an Acro P2 on here. But here's the problem. Because this is an older gun, and the Acro didn't exist back then in that weird way that they mount it, this doesn't have a way to directly mount an Acro P2. I would have to put an adapter plate on here. Does that bother me? No, because I'm not one of those that really freaks out about co-witnessing my sights. It's nice if you're able to. I'm not mocking you. Well, I was kind of mocking you. But I'm correcting myself because there is a valid reason for wanting to do that. However, again, for me, it would be more of a, hey, it's a great backup, not actually co-witnessing. I don't care if my dot aligns with my sights being aligned. Mine is actually off to the left, just a hair. Anyway, I don't shoot like that. It's good for a backup if my dot were to die for some reason, but I buy Holosuns, so I don't typically have to worry about the sight dying. Anyway, so these screws have never come loose. It's a solid, great system. Now, it comes in a nicely made case. They've got a big white outer box, and inside is a nice pistol case. And inside, you're going to get a couple of PMags that you're going to throw away and never use because Glock-style PMags are notoriously shitty, and you'll want to use Glock factory mags, which is what I do. It's the only magazines I use, and I've got the Glock factory +2 cap on there. And in case you're wondering, with the magwell, you can use the Glock style +2 extensions or the flat base plate, totally fine. The magwell is designed in such a way that you can use everything without any issues whatsoever. So yeah, sorry Shadow Systems, I just can't get behind the PMag choice. I'm sure a lot of people have good luck, and you guys did too. Otherwise, you wouldn't have invested in putting PMags in your guns. I know that Trevor is big on testing the living shit out of everything before a change rolls out. So I'm sure they had good luck. I've never had good luck with Glock-style PMags, so I'm just not going to take the risk. Why should I? When these mags are like $20, $25, there's no need to. I don't feel like I have to take that risk. Okay, and while we're on the subject of shortcomings, you can't avoid the trigger. Yes, it's a service-style gun or a combat-style gun, so you don't need a match trigger on it. So it's got that rolling wall, and I'll zoom in on it so we can see better. So there's that little bit of normal take up, and you hit the wall. Mush, 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 break. Now the break is very solid, but I'm someone that does not like a rolling wall. I want to back up straight to a solid wall and push straight through it. To me, it's more consistent that way. But here's the funny thing. It has never caused me an issue while shooting. I'm really accurate with this gun. I've had no consistency issues from shot to shot. I've had no speed issues from shot to shot. My splits have been totally fine. Now, if you're a total trigger snob dry firing it a lot, yeah, it's going to bother you. You're going to go, oh God, it feels so crappy. But in real world applications, when you're actually shooting it, you don't even realize it. You don't notice it. It feels really good when you're actually shooting it. Now, I even swapped it out to this Overwatch precision trigger, and it didn't help one iota. Other guns that I have put this trigger in, it changes the characteristics wildly. In this gun and in my CR920, didn't change a damn thing. So yeah, there's money wasted, but that's okay. So like I said, in actual shooting, it hasn't bothered me whatsoever. So does it really matter? No, not at all. Now, I have opted to use the supplied magwell that comes in the packaging because it gives me that pinky leverage that I prefer to have for a controlled firing grip. I have this weird thing with Glock 19s where I love the size, but the grip is just a little bit cramped for me, and I end up in this weird place on the frame. And yes, a magwell does force my fingers to feel kind of squeezed together. However, what that allows me to do is have that extra bit of recoil control with my pinky, because it's really not all about your support hand. That's, probably 80% of it. But I like, when I've got my master grip on here, I like to be able to control where the front sight or where the dot is with my pinky. And this allows me to do that. Now, I don't know if it greatly reduces my reload speeds, but I'm sure it does. But I'm using it for grip mainly. I'm not a competition shooter. I don't need that lightning fast reload. And I think it's pretty well evidenced when you look at defensive situations that have been filmed that unless you're a cop, reload speed generally is not a factor anyway, so who cares? Now, for those that don't know, this is a Gen 4 Glock. And that's info that people say is hard to find on the internet. So if you're replacing parts, you're buying various different parts, you want to buy for a Glock Gen 4, not Gen 3. Now, I've had a chance to tour their facility in Plano back when I lived in Texas, and these guys control every facet of manufacturing. I mean, everything. It's not a joke. Oh my God, what a Biden thing to say. It's not a joke. Anyway, they make everything, including doing their own coatings. And their coatings are so well done because they're controlling that as well. Now, as you see, my gun has held up extremely well over time. It almost looks like it's never been carried. And even on my barrel. See, I'm not one of those guys that comes out here and goes, I fire the shit out of my guns. And they're showing you basically a brand new gun in the review. Well, you could see my poor dirty barrel here. I didn't bother to clean before I yanked it out. Yeah, you see the typical lockup wear. You're not going to avoid that with any kind of coating whatsoever. But their coatings are fantastic. They do a really, really, really good job. You get a lot of quality built into the price. And yeah, price is going to be a major selling point for this gun. For everything that's done to this gun, slide milling, the serrations up here, the milling for your optic, the silencer height night sights, the undercut, and then the undercut trigger, the magwell, the better than standard Glock trigger that's installed. All of the things that are done here and then refinishing it to make it all look cohesive. When you break down the individual cost, it's $300 to $400 more if you went out and purchased a Glock and have done all of these things to it. So you're saving $300 to $400 by buying this gun. There's no lead times. You're not shipping it out across the country to various places having custom work done. You're not without the gun for any length of time. And you're getting things that cannot be done to a Glock. And that's a much bigger thing when you add it all up. Nobody does an undercut this good. And if you doubt that at all, take your customized Glock with your undercut on there and then go to a store that has a Shadow Systems pistol in stock, wrap your hand around it and feel it. And you're going to go, oh, yeah, now I see what he's saying. There is a significant difference there. And nobody can do this particular optics cut and give you the universal adaptation where you could put any optic you want, then change your mind a week later, then change your mind a week later, and be set down this low and built this solid with screws that long. It cannot be done on a Glock. Absolutely. Because nobody can get past that extractor. Now, the one thing that I hear people getting concerned about with Shadow Systems is the fact that there's a break-in. Yes, like a custom 1911, they have a break-in period. That's because the barrel is machined ever so slightly oversized to the dimensions of the slide. So it has to get broken in. Those parts have to mate together. So yeah, a sacrificial 200 rounds is needed. Mine had 0 malfunctions, but that's probably not the case for every gun. Just get through the break-in period and don't be a little bitch about it. And while sure you don't need to break in a factory Glock out of the box, you're an idiot if you're not running at least 500 rounds of test fire through any gun that you're intending to carry. I don't care what the hell it is. If I buy an FN or I buy a Glock, it's going out 300 to 500 rounds the very first range trip and at least 500 rounds before I carry it. And that's on the most reliable guns in the world. And also HK. I'm a big HK fan as well. So nobody gets a pass on that, man. Everything's going to get run through with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds around, 500 minimum. I like to be around 1,000 if possible, but you know, sometimes you just don't have time for that, or it can get really, really expensive. So yeah, I have been overjoyed with my decision to buy this gun, and I have thoroughly enjoyed every time I've shot it. So I can confidently say that while there are a lot of really cool new guns that have come out since then, a lot of things that I've bought and fallen in love with and had a honeymoon period with, I come back to this as my favorite carry gun, as well as my favorite gun to take to the range. And yeah, that's sitting right next to this full custom Langdon Tactical $1,500 compact carry. A lot more expensive. A lot more work has gone into it. And I can easily say 9 times out of 10, I'm going to prefer to take that out on the range or put that in a holster. And I can't even describe to you how much I love my Langdon Custom. I truly do love it. But this is a different animal, a completely different beast. One thing that I forgot to mention, that as I'm holding the gun, I'm seeing, I forgot to mention the rear of the slide. That's something else they do to make it easier to carry without printing. Instead of that slide being straight backed and having that 90-degree corner, they have very slightly angled it forward, so there's less meat back here to print. Everything they did on this damn gun is genius. And yeah, it's easy to sit here and just slobber all over it and talk about how truly unbelievably great it is. Because it is. It really, really is. So I have never regretted making that purchase. And I have never regretted having the CR920 as well. And they've all replaced guns. So like I said in the intro, when I bought this gun, I had 2 Glock 19s and a 19X. And the 19X had been my favorite to shoot out of every stock Glock. One of my Glock 19s I got rid of when I got my standard FN 509M, which I had gotten a while after I got my tactical, because it was just a better fit in the hand, less blocky and much more contoured and curved. So I went, okay, I'm not going to carry my regular Glock 19 that I had some in various stages of customization. So I got rid of one to opt for that. When I bought this, I got rid of my other Glock 19 and my Glock 19X because I realized I'm never going to carry those. And I'm far less likely to go shoot them because this was much more enjoyable in both respects. Same goes for this. I remember when the Glock 43 first came out. What a revolutionary thing that was, man. The size of a 380 and you were carrying around 9mm. It was fantastic. So I had bought one of those right away. And then the SIG P365 came out. That made that completely useless. So when I was ready to buy something else cool and fun just to add to the collection, I bought the 43X, right? A little bit different and a lot more capacity when you use the S15 mags. So I had 15 plus 1 in a gun that was this size. If I use the standard Shadow Systems mag, it's the size of a 43. If I use the 13 round mag, it's the size of a 43X. That's something you don't get with either a 43 or a 43X. Well, you could with a 43. You just buy the longer mag and you put one of the adapters on there. But that's the way this ships from the factory. So when I got this, I got rid of the 43X. There was no reason to own the 43X with its really not so reliable S15 mags. This thing has been fantastic. Super slim, which is exactly what you want in a micro compact. Nice and small, but still enough of a grip to be controllable. This has been amazing. So yeah, am I a Shadow Systems fanboy? Yeah, kinda, I guess. I've never been a brand loyalist. I buy a lot of different stuff. HK, FN, Glock, Beretta. There's a lot of brands that I truly love. But there's never one where I go, that is the one. But when my friends come to me and ask, hey, I'm looking to buy one really, 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 really good gun for everything. For carry, for home defense, and for shooting and really enjoying it, I tell them Shadow Systems. Every time. Now, what I plan on doing, this is going to get replaced too. What I plan on doing is buying a CR920P. I want the compensated version, and from what I understand, Shadow Systems has done an amazing job with their compensators where they're super, super effective. I only bought the Radian Ramjet and Afterburner for my MR920 because I moved from Texas to a really crappy restrictive state that does not allow you to purchase a gun with a threaded barrel. Now, in my case, I moved here with guns with threaded barrels. That's fine. They're grandfathered in. But I can't buy a threaded barrel pistol. So I couldn't buy the additional accessory on Shadow Systems' website, their compensator for this gun. You're not buying the threaded barrel. I already had the threaded barrel, but they wouldn't be allowed to ship a compensator that goes on a threaded barrel to this damn state. It's stupid. And believe me, I tried. It was only $100. I went to their website, went to buy it, and they got immediately blocked. They went, we're not allowed to do this. Sorry. And that sucks. So for this, because the majority of the guns that I have, I've either ported or comped, and I know that Shadow Systems did a good job, I'm going to get rid of this and find me a CR920P. That is my next goal gun. I want a CR920P. And no, I'm not going to buy another gun that's in this size made by somebody else that's compensated or put a comp on it. I love Shadow Systems, and I'm sticking with it. So that's where I'm at. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you got some information that helped you make your decision. Hopefully you heard a few things here that you haven't heard in other really great GunTuber reviews that are out there. This is a very well-covered series of guns. But for me, I wanted to point out that yes, there are a lot of things here that are similar to what other gun companies are doing to Glock clones, but they're doing it better. They're doing it differently. They're doing it more uniquely. And the fact that if you were to somehow be in the unfortunate situation where you have to use your firearm in a defensive scenario, that you're not out the money that you've invested in your gun. So, man, I think I've heard 2 people on YouTube talk about that out of all the videos that I've watched over the years. That's a huge deal to me. So I want to make sure I put that in there. Anyway, I'm out of here for now. Thank you for watching. As always, if you have enjoyed the video, please click like. It helps the algorithm, shows it to more people. And if you like the way I do shit, then subscribe. I'd love to have you. Thanks so much. If you have any questions, please put them down below. I will do my best within my capacity to answer them for you.